What's good, fellas? I'm here today with a trade recap on how I took one loss and one win. It was a very tiny loss. You don't see the executions here because it was taken on micros. Here are the executions. And yeah, I'm gonna just get right into it. So, coming into market open, let me delete that. Obviously, I'm gonna be bullish here. Um, we are respecting bullish gaps. We are disrespecting this bearish range. ES has a relative equal high with all. We're just in all-time highs price action. So obviously I'm going to stay bullish. And we are respecting these two 4-hour gaps. So yeah. Um, so yeah, I was bullish coming into the day. And what I wanted to see at market open, because we had this PPI data high, it was a little equal high on NQ. I wanted to see we had this 15-minute gap, which was also a 5-minute gap. And I wanted either A, we resweep or we sweep this out, tap into this 5-minute gap and get a long from there, or we resweep this low and get a long from here. Now, right at open, as you can see, we ended up dumping through this 5-minute gap. So at this point, I wanted the low to be taken for a long. And we ended up we did get something here. However, let me see what happened. I wanted to take this. I literally put a limit order here. I wanted to take this inversion right here, but the 5-minute gap ended up being taken before the long happened. I would have taken this right here. It would have been a perfect 1-to-1 RR. That's why I limit ordered it. And yeah, that's what I was looking for. But the 5-minute gap was hit before, and that was like my break-even point. So I didn't enter. I deleted my limit order, and it ended up failing. So that's good. And at this point, we started dumping. I didn't really know why we were dumping because I was very bullish on the day. And then we ended up making an SMT over here with this low, which was an Asia low, and then ES hit this low over here too. And I was still bullish, and I just wanted to see an inversion here. The highest time frame inversion was this 4-minute gap if it loads. Whatever. It was this 4-minute gap, as you can see here. And I limit ordered the gap. I got in, limit ordered it, and I had my stop loss here just because it was a very wide stop. And honestly, I expected it to distribute pretty quickly since we just took a lot of sell side liquidity. Went a lot more discounted than I expected. So yeah, I expected it to go up very quickly. However, these 4-hour gaps that I was using ended up being inversed. As you can see, they got closed through. I took this trade before 10 a.m. and I anticipated that we would displace higher, hold the gaps, and we could get that long. However, they didn't hold. As you can see, both of these gaps got closed through. And yeah, I ended up closing the trade like right here, as you can see on my execution, because that did invalidate my idea. So I closed it at, what was it, 174.5, like here somewhat. I bought at 190.5. Yeah, so it ended up being like a 16-point loss, very small loss. I was like down maybe 250 bucks on my evals. Nothing much. Down like, I don't know, 30 bucks on my live account. And yeah, now something that I didn't notice that I should have definitely noticed was the fact that there was this volume imbalance over here. Now, when there is a leg that has, fair value gaps and there's also a volume imbalance, that volume imbalance counts as a fair value gap. So if you want this whole range to count as, okay, we inverse this range, it would have had to close through here. I didn't notice this. I honestly just wasn't paying attention to this. And I should have been. And honestly, I think I would have still ended up closing the trade early. due to SMT, which I'll show right now. But that's just something that I need to start paying attention to, is volume imbalances is a very important concept. Now, why would I have probably closed it early anyways? If you look, I think, over here, ES is taking all these highs. We made a new 15-minute fair value gap over here, which opened up after the trade was entered. And if you look on ES, it took it like right here, which I should be going break even at that point because, well, that's a 15-minute gap. And if ES takes it, I need to go break even. But at that point, we were still in drawdown. That was like here. I would have maybe lost an extra 15 points. I don't think I would have held through all this, but if I did, it would have ended up working out. Regardless, I would have had to break even again over here. Like, we had so much SMT. But I took this tiny loss. I was like, all right, it's all good. And at this point, we started displacing higher. I was still bullish because we were displacing higher and because if you look at the hourly, we didn't inverse this whole hourly range. We had this perfect SMT at these lows. I guess when you see these type of 4-hour inverses, you should always look into the hourly to see how that looks, because this can all still be valid. We soup this low. This does still look bullish when you look on the hourly chart. And we had that volume imbalance. So I stayed bullish. And at this point, I was just looking for a continuation model, which is when we open up a 5-minute gap, trade into that 5-minute gap, and get an inversion out of it towards a draw. The draws that we had here were this hourly fair value gap right here, which is the sell side or buy side level, and the data high, and just we're overall bullish to all-time highs. And we traded into this 5-minute gap right here. And there was, I think there was a 30-second here. And I did want to get in on this. When did it inverse? It inversed right here. And me, like an idiot, tried to limit order the CISD just for an extra, what was it, like 2 points, which was dumb. I would have held to here. So that was stupid of me to try to limit order just to get an extra 2 points. And I ended up running straight to the break even, which was this high. But it ended up not hitting the TP. So at this point, I just wanted to see a resweep of this low to get along. That's just what I was looking for. And we got that. We reswept this low. And I think it was a 1-minute inversion, right? Yeah. 1 minute right here. And I did enter, it, filled me here. Put my stop loss here because this is a rejection wick. I didn't expect this wick to be all the way traded back to. And it was a perfect 1-to-1. I had my TP set here. I could have held all the way to this data high because I was somewhat confident in it. But just there's this hourly gap here. We could get at least like a little rebalance off of it. It was already late. It was like 10:40. The trade didn't hit TP till like 10:55. Usually the market is very slow by then. And just how the price action has been all day, like it was chopping here. We didn't reject as strongly as I would have wanted. I just wanted to be out of the trade as soon as I could be, as soon as my rules allowed me to be. And that's what I did. It ended up running all the way here, ran all the way back to all-time highs, but I just didn't want to hold for that. So, right, where'd I go break even? Right here, I went break even, and then next candle hit TP. So it was a small trade, 40 points on my evals. I'm running one Lucid. Is it a Flex account? I think it's a Lucid Flex eval, 50k, and a 50k end of day trailing Apex eval, which I bought for CPI yesterday, but CPI did absolutely nothing. So now I just have a fresh Apex account, and then I have my live account too. So I'm not going to show P&L for my live account just because I'm myself. I'm not looking at it. I just don't want to see my balance. Don't want to allow it to get into my head. Just want to trade it for like till the end of the month and then check it at the end of the month, see how my performance is, instead of every single day looking at money, But I'll show the P&L for this. It was $640. And yeah, that's just what I hit for the day. Pretty happy with how I played today. Happy with how I played bias. And just learned a couple things with, the volume imbalance, which wouldn't have saved me today because I would have probably had to exit this trade early anyways. Unless I just like saw this chop and I was like, whatever, I'm gonna accept my risk. But I was not, after seeing this chop, I was 99% sure it would just stop me out. And yeah, I'm getting better with my discretion, with relying less on entry model and less on like PD raise, and more focused on how confident I am in a draw, because your draw is always your most important thing when it comes to, a trade. That's always the most important thing. If you have no draw, you have nothing. So depending how I'm playing it right now, instead of how I used to be like, oh, I must have a super high probability draw paired with a super high probability PD array, paired with a super high probability entry model and internal targets and all that. Yes, that does work, but like you're gonna take one trade a month, like how I was doing. And you're not gonna get that much better RR because the draw is the most important thing. So now how I'm playing it is, if I see a draw that I'm super, super confident in, high conviction in it, it's very obvious, then I don't need to be so strict on what PD array I use for my trade or what liquidity sweep I use for my trade. As long as there's any type of signal that tells me, yeah, you should get in, get in. Same with entry model. I don't need to be super strict on it. However, when a draw is less obvious, when you have a little bit less conviction in a trade, maybe it's chopping, maybe there's draws on both sides, then you should be waiting for the more strict PD array, the more strict entry model. But in this case, I was very confident. I didn't care about internal targets or anything like that. Well, yeah, I didn't care about internal targets. There were none here other than just had this draw and I thought we were going to this high. And yeah, that's it for the day. I'm going to keep back testing that type of trading, learn my discretion with it, and I'm focused more now on my draws than I am on what my entry model is. And yeah, that's it for the day. I'll post another video whenever I take a trade again, and peace out.